there was a recent interview with Barack Obama on Mark Maron's podcast, and Barack Obama defended his failure to push for single-payer healthcare. And he said, well, we didn't have the votes.
If you're telling me that the Affordable Care Act is going to insure 50 million people, do I think that's better than if we were starting from scratch and I could get a single-payer plan instituted and get that through Congress and suddenly we had universal health care and we had taken the profit motive out of, do I think that would probably be a smarter way to do it? Absolutely.
Right.
But since I can't do that, I don't have the votes for that. How about this?
Yeah, we can make it better.
We can make it better. This sense that things aren't worth it unless we get everything we want is either a recipe for disappointment in a democracy, but also maybe in life, or it leads to this weird cynicism where you just withdraw entirely. And that's part of what happened to too many of our folks.
And I seemed to remember when he said that a reporter at some point had reported a quote from Barack Obama back then where he had said that actually his opposition to single-payer healthcare was that it would cost too many jobs in the private insurance industry. And I think you are the person who reported that.
That's correct.
In the nation.
So
yeah?
that's absolutely true. It was one of the most disillusioning interviews I've ever had in my entire life. So long story short, I did a profile of Barack Obama in 2000, I think it was 2007. And we were talking about how he had said on his Senate campaign, he had said, we need single-payer healthcare. The only thing standing in our way is we have to first get a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and the presidency. So obviously, when Barack Obama is elected president a few years later, they have a Democratic Senate, a Democratic House, and a Democratic president. But in the interim, in between that, he had sort of said, again, before he became president, he had sort of said, I'm not sure I'm for single payer anymore. He sort of backed off of it. And I asked him, this is around 2007, I said, well, you said all we got to do is get a Democratic president. Why are you already backing off it? And he said, well, now I'm a senator. He literally said this. Now I'm a senator. And what am I going to say to the people in Illinois who work in the insurance industry? And what am I going to say? Right. And I was like, I mean, this is true. And it's in the article. I was like, wow, like that's your argument?
Yeah.
Like your argument.
We got to preserve the bullshit job. We don't need these jobs, but
I mean, it's like an incredible. It's like an incredible thing, and I think my takeaway from it is, and was at the time, and now putting it together with what he said on Maron's interview, was it's not the jobs, it's the money. It's that he knows the insurance industry will come after him, and I think this gets to go back to your question about soft corruption. I think it's very important to understand that there's a kind of silent way that corruption works, which is to say this. I had a senator say to me a year ago, look, if I have a bill that takes on an industry, the political challenge is not only that that the industry is going to spend against me, it's that all that industry has to do is shake its pocket change at other senators to keep them away from my bill, right? If industry, like let's use the crypto industry as an example. Crypto industry spent a bunch of money in the last election and a bunch of high profile races to defeat what it perceived to be its critics. And it was an investment not just in destroying the crypto industry's critics, but in sending a message to all of Congress saying the next time we want something, all of you, we're not going to give you money necessarily. All of you who are thinking about opposing us better get out of the way or we're coming after you. So no money needs to even sort of be exchanged for the threat to define what is politically possible and what isn't. And I think, so to go back to Obama, I read what Obama said as, it's a form of corruption. I was not willing to fight with a powerful, moneyed interest, knowing that it would be a hard fight, knowing that they would spend a lot against me. And I would extend that, by the way, to Obama on various things. I mean, Barack Obama campaigned as a populist, came into office, and quickly prioritized bailing out his Wall Street donors, while those same donors were mass foreclosing on millions of Americans, which I would argue created the conditions ultimately for Trump's ascent. But the point is, even in that example, in my view, a form of corruption is at the core. I'm not taking on my Wall Street donors. I'm prioritizing serving them while they destroy the lives of millions of people, right? And in a certain sense, you can say, well, they gave him money on his campaign, but it's also the opposite. They didn't even have to spend after that, because that spending says to everybody in Congress, you get in our way and we're going to use our resources to buy the election you're running in to get you out of office.
And you actually open the book with the story of your own political disillusionment during the Clinton years, where you were with Bernie long before the rest of America got on board with Bernie, and Bernie has long pushed for allowing Americans to buy prescription drugs from Canada. There was a bill, it passed,
This is like 25 years ago for folks who know. Yeah, 25 years ago.
Done by the Clinton administration in the year 2000. You watched this triumph.
This was a crushing story for me. I mean, this is like my origin origin story. Right? Like, I'm working for Bernie Sanders. I'm a young person just out of college. I'm doing press for him. We're doing bus trips, taking seniors up to Canada to get more affordable, life-saving drugs. Literally doing bus trips. Okay, in order to spotlight this ridiculous situation where the drug companies are charging Canadians much lower prices than Americans. And by the way, that's not to blame the Canadians. It's not like the drug companies aren't making money up in Canada. They're making good profits on the Canadian prices. They're gouging us here in the United States. These bus trips spotlight that. Bernie ultimately gets a bill passed through Congress. Not easy. At the end in 2000, the drug companies, the most powerful companies in politics, gets a bill passed through Congress making this legal. Finally saying wholesalers can do this. You're not going to have to drive up to Canada, right? Making this legal. The drug companies hate it. They end up slipping a tiny little loophole into the bill, saying that, okay, the bill's, there's enough public support and the Clinton administration can't stop it. Nobody could stop, right? It's just, they had to do it. They were shamed into doing it. And there's a loophole that says, before this goes into effect, just the Secretary of the Health and Human Services has to certify that it's safe. And just before Bill Clinton leaves off, so we've won, we're celebrating, high-fiving, we did it, this is amazing, right? I'm a young person, oh my God, the system actually worked, this is incredible. And sort of in the dead of winter, just a couple weeks before Clinton is leaving office, they issue this, right before Christmas, this short, quiet press release saying we're not certifying this, essentially vetoing this bill after it had already passed and after the president had signed it, right? But Clinton had signed it, and yet so now they're using this loophole to kill it on behalf of the drug industry. And here we are. Now, I want to be clear, had that bill passed, it's not like it would fully solve the drug price problem, but it was like this like we did everything. Like right. we played by the rules and we won. And yet we didn't.
For more current affairs interviews and to get access to full-length interviews before anyone else, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/currentaffairs today.